Make sure to go and check out all of our latest merch at paddockmerch.com. We've got loads of new designs and even more products coming all the time. With 2 or more items, you get 20% off using the code Paddock20. And if you remember, there's even bigger discounts available. Link is in the description. Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. Almost out of the blue, Manchester United have reached an agreement with Ralf Rangnick to become the interim manager of Manchester United. This is according to Laurie Whitwell and David Ornstein of The Athletic. They have said Ralf Rangnick has agreed an agreement with Manchester United to become their next interim manager. The 63-year-old, who is seen as the godfather of modern coaching in Germany, is leaving his job as head of sports development at Lokomotiv Moscow to take up the role. The Athletic understands the agreement is subject to Rangnick's current club, Lokomotiv, agreeing to release him from his contract, although Manchester United do not anticipate this to be a problem. Rangnick has agreed a 6-month deal until the end of May, and he will have a further 2 years in a consultancy role. I don't know whether that's something he insisted on or something that United wanted, but to me that is a huge and crucial part of this deal, the most important part potentially, because that is what he's so good at. He is not just a coach. He's not just a very highly tactically astute, as we'll get into in just a minute, coach. He is a great sort of football mind and a visionary when it comes to running clubs and how clubs should be ran. He is excellent above that managerial and coaching role as well. For those who don't know who Ralf Rangnick is, he's sort of, as we heard there, known for being the sort of godfather of German football. He adapted and sort of pioneered the Gegenpress, which we've all heard so much of since Klopp and Tuchel's sort of rise to fame over the last sort of decade or so. The concept of basically not allowing the opposition team to hold the ball. Remember that thing we tried to do against Liverpool when we lost 5-0? That. Let's just go into a little bit about that. Rangnick is recognised as one of the most notable visionaries of the Gegenpress, whereby the team, after losing possession, immediately attempts to win it back rather than falling back to recoup together with evolving players' spatial coverage by increasing memory space and processing space. It sounds like something a PC would do, when actually it's 11 footballers who do this. He said it developed this after playing a friendly against Dynamo Kiev in 1984, quite a while ago, being inspired by the pressing philosophy of Valery Lobanovsky. Rangnick was also one of the first coaches to publicly criticise football tactics, notably during ZDF Sports Studio TV broadcast in 1998. As a result, Rangnick became known as the Professor, a title initially used to jeer him, which then he grew to a term of respect. Huge deal for Manchester United, this obviously linked with Pochettino very heavily. Still seems as though that may be the long-term goal for Manchester United. Mauricio Pochettino also linked in recent days with Ernesto Valverde, the former Barcelona manager. Rangnick's been one that's sort of been almost not under the radar, but kind of maybe 2 or 3 levels below, the favourites. He's always been that sort of second man. First of all, you hear Pochettino, he might be able to come this week. He was the favourite, and Rangnick's down here. And then Valverde comes up above him. Even Carrick was up there after the win, against Villarreal. He was touted as one of the favourites to take the job till the end of the season. Now it does appear that Ralf Rangnick is that man. Again, coming from The Athletic, Laurie Whitwell and David Ornstein working together. Ralf Rangnick has agreed with Manchester United to become their interim manager. The Athletic understands the agreement is subject to Rangnick's current club, Lokomotiv, agreeing to release him from his contract, although Manchester United do not anticipate this to be a problem. He's agreed a 6-month deal until the end of May. He will have a further 2 years in a consultancy role. The rest of the article talks about Ole being sacked, talking about a little bit of his history, taking an unknown German side, to the Bundesliga for the first time in their history at the start of this century. He also had significant success as a director of football, where he held the role for both RB Salzburg and RB Leipzig from 2012 onwards, having brief stints as the manager in Leipzig. After Rangnick took the role, Leipzig rose from the regional league, which is the 4th tier, to the Bundesliga. Now, yes, congratulations, great job. but also they had loads of money and they were owned in a way that no other club in Germany was basically owned. So they were bound to make it to the Bundesliga eventually. But of course, he oversaw that project, which can't have been easy, taking a very small club to being a very big club, regardless of the means and the funds that he was helped by, is still an impressive job, still a difficult thing to do. But yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing how this team that looked so incapable of pressing, or weren't coached properly on how to press in recent months, is now being coached by, like we said, one of the sort of godfathers, one of the foremost proponents of that high, intense press. Like the video, if you are happy, Ralf Rangnick has essentially not fully confirmed by the club, but confirmed by Tier 1 journalists and by pretty much every news outlet across the country. Like the video if you are happy. He is going to be joining Manchester United, not just for 6 months, but for 2 years and 6 months. And that is a crucial distinction. Let me know in the comments what you think. Very low volume, bro, apparently. We can listen to that. Maybe your headphones. Unable to hear you properly. Alex will sort that right now. And if he doesn't, he's dead. Bottom of the running league, top by April with this bloke. Yeah, it's going to require some intense fitness, this, isn't it? I wonder if he had some reservations about joining halfway through the season when you consider his style of play. There were rumours that we had a conversation with him earlier in the week where he wasn't so keen on joining. We then upgraded the offer that we gave to him, and he has seemingly accepted that offer now. Maybe that was to do with those 2 years of consultancy. Which, again, when you say consultancy, what does that mean? Because Ed Woodward's providing a consultancy role after he leaves. Does that mean he's going to be a consultant coach, a consultant CEO, a consultant director of football? What is the exact details of this consultancy role? Surely something that we'll find out more about as time goes on. But Paulino Medeiros says best decision available. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's not necessarily who we would pick if we had every option in the world, but I think he's one of those managers that is, I hate to say a hipster's choice because that assumes that he doesn't have the quality to back it up, but he's one of those managers where his reputation exceeds his achievements, you could say. Certainly when it comes to top-level winning trophies, winning silverware, he's not necessarily your silverware manager. He's not the manager you bring in to win your trophies. Here's his honours, his list of honours as a manager. He won the Regionalliga Sud for Ulm, which I believe is one of the very low divisions. At Stuttgart, he won the Under-19 Bundesliga. He won the Intertoto Cup. With Hanover, he won the second division. With Schalke, he came runners-up in 2005. He won the German Cup in 2011. There you go. He won the German Super Cup in 2011, which I think is basically the Charity Shield. He also won the Liga Pokal, which is the German League Cup. So he's won an FA Cup and a League Cup in 30 years as a manager. So, like I said, he's very well known for his philosophies. He's very well known for his tactics. He isn't very well known for winning trophies. That's where the comparison that we've seen, that we've made to Marcelo Bielsa comes from. He's sort of renowned amongst coaches, amongst football circles as a sort of a thought genius, but not necessarily a sort of winning machine, which is probably the biggest criticism you can give to him. Maybe one of the reasons why he hasn't been given a 2-year deal is because he doesn't necessarily win a lot of trophies, which is something Manchester United need right now. Although you look at the teams he's managed, in his defence, obviously he's the new Manchester United manager, I'm not here to slag him off. In his defence, Leipzig, Schalke, Hoffenheim, Hanover, Stuttgart, Ulm, you wouldn't necessarily have expected him to win many Champions Leagues with those teams. But again, never quite taking the jobs of the highest echelon. This is by far the biggest club he's ever managed. The second biggest club would be, I guess, RB Leipzig, which is a team with little to no history. Schalke, a decent team. I think United faced him in the Champions League semi-final, didn't we? A decade or so ago now. A decent team again, but no one of the stature of Man United. Never a European giant, never a European great. This is by far his biggest ever job, which is quite stunning, really, when you consider he's 63 years old and he's been managing football teams since 1983. It's taken him just under 40 years to get one of the European giants. And strangely enough, you look at that CV and how on, black and white, trophies, yes or no, big clubs, yes or no, relatively underwhelming it is. He seems to be an overwhelmingly supported appointment, and he's someone I'm happy with as the appointment as well. I think for 6 months and then those 2 months of overseeing the football side of things, hopefully that's what he's doing in his consultancy role. He's a very good appointment and someone that appears to be a popular appointment as well. You've also spelt Rangnick wrong on that graphic, Alex. Alex cannot get the spelling of Ralf Rangnick correct today on the headline there. Yeah, okay, cool. Sorry. It's a tricky one. It's Rangnick. And we'll get there eventually. And it's as simple as that. He was considered for the England job and got down to the last two with Big Sam. Yeah, he's been considered for big jobs. He's a big name. But again, not necessarily won a hell of a lot. But let's not focus on the negatives. He's a very, very tactically astute football mind. Again, you've seen Oredo 40 there. Klopp said Rangnick is his biggest influence. Good move by United. And you don't need to post that comment anymore. You've posted it about 40 times in all caps. And we've read it now. Anyone who thought Eric was announcing himself wasn't a joke wants to give the head a wobble. I don't think anyone thought that wasn't a joke, did they? Jay Ashford 9 says, what a decision. I'm absolutely chuffed with this. Where do you think Ronaldo fits into his plans? I don't know. Probably up front, I would have thought. Joe, does this mean the coaching staff will stay until the end of the season? Well, I don't think there's any direct quote on that. But what we were hearing in the last couple of days is that whoever the new coach is may well have Carrick, McKenna sort of assigned to them. Rather than them bringing their own coaching staff in, or you could potentially have a sort of a mixture like Jose did it. He had Carrick and McKenna with him, but he also had his own people there as well, didn't he? Which is more than possible. In terms of a permanent manager, this puts that to rest until the end of the season. Essentially, he's got a 6-month job interview here, hasn't he? He's got 6 months to prove that he's the right man to take us forward. I think, no one really wanted to give that role to Michael Carrick because we saw what happened with Solskjaer. We still feel a bit burned from the fact that, yes, he did decent work while he was here, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but he couldn't take us to that next level. He appeared to be a relatively short-sighted appointment by the board. Some former players come in, or a former legend has come in and done pretty well, so let's give him the job. This is a slightly different feel to it. Let's say he does win an FA Cup, get us top 4, get us the semi-final of the Champions League, or, God forbid, wins us the Champions League. You can bet your arse he's going to be the manager next season. I'm sure he knows that. But again, let's not look too far ahead here. Can he beat Watford? Well, we'll find out in the second half of the season, won't we? Great that we signed this guy, but we still have a McFred midfield. Guy's going to have to work miracles to get this to work. Well, yeah, we can't sign any midfielders in the middle of November, can we? So we'll see what happens in January. I don't know what he will have insisted on. This rumour that there was an initial contact to him that he rejected, and we went back with an improved deal that he's now accepted. Who knows what improvements were made there? The instant thought would be money. The other option would be this consultancy role that is an unusual sort of added extra to give a manager that you are only given an interim job to. It's weird to give someone 6 months job as a manager and then a 2-year job as a consultant. Who knows? Maybe that was what was added to his deal. The other option, like you said there, the other option might have been assurances around transfers. He might have come in and said, I'll do the job, but I need 100 million in January. I need Declan Rice or this player or that player, or maybe someone from the Bundesliga. Obviously, he'll be an expert in Bundesliga recruitment, something he's done a hell of a lot of in his roles at RB Leipzig. Perhaps that was what the improved offer was. We've got a couple of super chats. Seamus Nolan says, for the first time in years, this board has made a good call. Now in the summer, push for Ten Hag and push him upstairs and show these clowns how to run a football club. Hopefully, he's got the chops. He's got what's needed to do that, because it's kind of easy to say he did all right at this place, and this place. We don't quite know how that will work out at Manchester United. Hopefully, it does work out at Manchester United. Siddhant Badam says, the word consultancy role worries me. Speaks of no idea in leadership of what is needed and what needs to be done. There's 2 points there. And first of all, on the surface level, I agree. Yes, it says there's a lack of leadership. How are we getting some bloke in that, up until Ollie was sacked, there was presumably no plan to have him in. Now we've got a 2-year plan of him being a consultant to whatever degree that is. After the end of this season, how do we know how well Rangnick will work with the next manager? Are we deciding now that Gegenpress is the style of play for Manchester United, but it took Ole being sacked to work that out? None of this screams planning. None of this screams leadership. But at the same time, if we have someone who is undoubtedly a football man, a football mind, someone that knows football inside and out, knows the deep line tactics of football, not just from a sort of business side of things like we see with most of United's board, surely that is better than filling those roles with people who have never played in football or never worked in football or don't understand those sort of intricacies that go on the pitch. Hopefully, he is better than what we have. The methodology behind the appointment doesn't scream leadership, doesn't scream a plan, but when has anything that this board and ownership have done in the last 15 years screamed plan? It never does. So hopefully, they'll have got it right, but using the wrong workings out, if you know what I mean. Sometimes you get to the right answer, even though your workings out is incorrect. And, I think that's as much as we can hope for with these lot, because the working out is always going to be incorrect because they don't have good footballing brains. We know that. They've proven that with a relatively good sample size of about 15 years. They don't have footballing brains. So if we do get to the right answer, it is by accident or we've stumbled across it. And hopefully we have stumbled across the right answer here. It's obviously a very popular a very popular appointment by Manchester United. But again, pleasing the fans and getting results on the pitch don't always go hand in hand, as we saw with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Surish Athavale says, is Rangnick being appointed as the manager/head coach? Is he coming in as a director? And if he is the head coach, is he bringing in his own staff? He is the manager. He's the interim manager. So he will be the one taking training or being on the training ground, putting his stamp and his will on the training ground of Manchester United. The director thing, I don't think there's a line or a path for him to be a director as it stands. The role he's supposedly doing after this 6 months is that of a consultant, which again, who really knows what that means, because you can have a consultant as a coach, you can have a consultant as a CEO, you can have a consultant as in marketing, in finance, in any facet of the business. We don't know exactly what he will be consulted on. All we know is that he supposedly will be consulted for 2 years after after May, which is when his contract runs out. So who really knows what's going on? Hopefully we'll get a bit more clarity once Manchester United confirm this officially. At the moment, we are going off the news and the reliability of David Ornstein and Laurie Whitwell, which, as far as we're concerned, is as reliable as it is done. Petar says, it's one of the best we could get. Hopefully, he won't be only consulting, but as a full-time sporting director. United haven't been good with us, but let's go. Yeah, it's definitely positive. He's the sort of mind and the kind of footballing brain that I didn't think United were capable of signing. That doesn't necessarily mean he's the right man, but it's the sort of position and the sort of appointment where you go, oh, okay. You don't just go for necessarily the most obvious person. I suppose we didn't go for the most obvious person in Louis van Gaal, did we? But it seems as though United's just get whoever's in front of him. Oh, Jose's free. Yeah, let's get him. Oh, Ole's done pretty well. Yeah, let's keep him. Rangnick is someone that you need to do a bit of research. You need to know football a little bit for him to be at the top of your list. And whether he was at the top of the list or not, he's the person that seems to be coming through and looking to be confirmed as the Manchester United manager. Who are these 7% of people that aren't happy with the signing? I don't know. Maybe they wanted Poch. The poll is in the chat. We've had 1,300 votes, 1,400 votes in there now. Are you happy with Rangnick as interim manager? 93% says yes. I'm going to go ahead and say that's overwhelming. Let's have another little look at Ralf Rangnick, because let's be honest, very few of us know a hell of a lot about him, and I include myself in that. Obviously, in recent days and weeks, I've done a lot of research on him. He's a name that we hear around football and have done for my entire life, but he's never been the focal point of a huge team, a Champions League win, a treble victory. He's always been one of those people sort of bubbling away in the undergrowth of kind of football chatter. Do you know what I mean? He's the one, oh, have you heard about this guy? He's a genius. Oh, have you heard about him? He started this Gegenpress. He's one of those sort of ethereal figures in German football history. And let's get a little bit more information on him. There's a great quote that I saw from him before, if I can just find that, talking about how the Gegenpress works. If we can just find that somewhere, I'll be lucky to find it now. I should be here, actually. Here we go. He was talking a little bit about, where is it? I may not be able to find that. Anyway, he was talking about how the press works and how we have to win the ball back high up the pitch, which is something, like we said, we tried to see with Solskjaer as manager against Liverpool and against Leicester. I personally think the Leicester game was arguably more embarrassing because Liverpool, we know they're great. We know they're probably still better than us, even though they had a poor year last year. A lot of that was down to injury. We know they're a very good team. With Leicester, they're having a poor season. They've started very badly. You'd think we should be able to beat Leicester. And we were torn apart by Leicester. Leicester looked better than us. They looked sharper than us. They were faster than us. They looked more tactically drilled than us. And they destroyed us. This is according to Fabrizio Romano. He said Rangnick told the board he'll only accept with the consultancy role. This was on Monday. So that was the criteria that was improved for Rangnick to take the offer. I do have that quote just here. This is from Ralf Rangnick talking about how his teams play. He said, we like to press high with a very intense counter pressure. When we have the ball, we do not like any square or backward passes. The goalkeeper should also not be the one with the most contact on the ball. In almost every league and every country, the goalkeeper is technically the most limited footballer on the pitch, and therefore we have to make sure that he has the lowest contact with the feet. It's a fast, proactive, attacking, counter-attacking, counter-pressing, exciting and entertaining style of football. Now, if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what does. He says all the words that we like. Do you know all the words you see on Twitter all the time? Like counter-pressing and pressing and exciting and fast and proactive. That's what he does. And he invented it, or he nicked it off a Ukrainian man. But he invented it in terms of the sort of big five leagues. That's a fantastic thing to read. And I think Steve was talking about, there's a great video he does with the coach's voice where he talks a bit more about just tactics generally. And you know that way that genuine top tacticians talk about football and you go, oh, he's doing something a bit mathematical here. This isn't just go out and enjoy yourself. This is like a bit of classroom stuff. And I know we saw that under Louis van Gaal to quite stiflingly boring effect. But I think we've got a bit more of a chance of that style of play that seems to be so popular around Europe at the minute, because it's no coincidence that Jurgen Klopp describes him as the greatest German football manager. Thomas Tuchel is one of his biggest advocates and fans. Another huge advocate of Ralf Rangnick is Nagelsmann as well, obviously at Bayern Munich. The biggest managers winning the big trophies in Europe are following his methodology, his style of play. The question is, can he do it better than they do? Because Klopp's got pretty good at it. Tuchel's got pretty good at it. Can we get as good at it as they are with the man that invented it? That's the question, and it's a huge question that we're obviously going to see the answer to. It's understood that Rangnick regards the opportunity to take over at Man United too big to turn down. That's according to James Ducker. I mean, it is too big to turn down, isn't it? Someone said, Gegenpress Ronaldo. If we see him turn Cristiano Ronaldo into a high-pressing attacker, I'll eat my own trousers live on air. I wonder how he's going to work around that, because you know, often these sort of semi-radical styles of play, these philosophy-based managers, often, not always, thrive with younger players, more moldable players, more susceptible to change and to instruction players. You see that with Louis van Gaal. You see that with Cruyff. You see that with a lot of managers who like youngsters. Because they will do what they're told, basically, and that's no bad thing. But you get a 36-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo and you tell him to double his pressing output. Do you get that out of him, or does Rangnick have a job on his hands working around Cristiano Ronaldo? Because if we're going to be gegenpressing, which get used to saying that, by the way, there is a part of me that feels slightly gross when I say it, because it's the ultimate word of the football Twitter hipster, isn't it? Oh, you've never heard of Gegenpress? Yeah, it's a great IPA that they sell. It's got one of those like hipstery mentalities to it, hasn't it? But you better get used to it because we're going to be using the word Gegenpress a hell of a lot in the next 6 months. And let me tell you, I, for one, am absolutely looking forward to it. Donny will be turned back into the hot prospect we bought him as. That's from Brian, quite possibly. Alish says Rangnick can now set up a coaching team who can work for the next permanent manager. I think he's going to bring his own staff in. As far as I'm aware, it's only Carrick and McKenna that is sort of United want to keep on, and that's not really enough. You know, there's going to be bigger staff than that. There's also talk that, you know, Rangnick is very particular about who he wants, the physios, the psychologists, the backroom staff that he wants, and that he will probably be bringing in his own team. Simon Stone, apparently the deal is not fully completed because Lokomotiv have a Europa League game tonight. Man United is mindful of this, essentially dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making sure we're respectful of the club that he's coming from, and the deal will be completed after that. Ulem99 said, I pressed no on the poll by accident. I'm sorry, I love Ralf. I think it's pretty overwhelmingly in support of Ralf Rangnick. Click on the poll, let your opinion be heard. Get Carrick and McKenna out. Can he actually make Fred into a good player? Who knows? Bet Steve has his pants off right now. Well, we'll find out. He should be coming on at some point soon. Why look to the future? You have looked for the future since Sir Alex. We need to evolve, learn from enemies. We don't need interim manager. We are going down the drain. AB Engineers there, seemingly not particularly happy with the appointment of Ralf Rangnick on a interim basis. For anyone who's just joined us, Ralf Rangnick has agreed to become the interim manager of Manchester United on an initial 6-month basis with a further 2 years in a consultancy role afterwards, something he insisted on by the sounds of things as a prerequisite to taking the job. United initially offered him the 6 months as just, you're the coach and then we'll see you later. He basically said, I'll only do it if I can be in a consultancy role afterwards. United seem to have caved or agreed or maybe even wanted that to happen, and that will happen. That's according to The Athletic by Laurie Whitwell and David Ornstein on that article. The 63-year-old, who is seen as the godfather of modern coaching in Germany, is leaving his job as head of sports and development at Lokomotiv Moscow to take up the role. The Athletic understands the agreement is subject to Rangnick's current club Lokomotiv agreeing to release him from his contract, although Man United do not anticipate this to be a problem, as we see there. Simon Stone saying that the deal isn't done because Lokomotiv actually have a game tonight, and United are mindful of this. Also, it makes it slightly easier to get him in the role, considering he's not actually the manager of Lokomotiv, he's the head of sports and development, so it's a slightly different role. It's not like you're taking him off the touchline, you're taking him off out of the boardroom and bringing him to Manchester United. People in the comments saying best choice available. Martial is screwed, lol. I mean, if I was Martial, I know that, you know, initially speaking, this doesn't seem like someone that he'd get along with. He wasn't getting along with Solskjaer. He wasn't getting along with Jose. Like, he needs to change something about himself, I think, if he's going to get along with any manager, let alone someone that demands a high press. So if I was him, I'd see this as an opportunity. You've got a different person to impress after you've clearly failed to impress the last manager we had. Douglas says, I love this appointment. Brian Johnson says, a director of football is what we've been crying out for. We tried to lure Van der Sar away from Ajax and couldn't even get him back. Finally, footballing heads being brought into our club. I agree with your point there. My only issue is he isn't coming in as a director of football. He's coming in as a consultant, which, again, we have no real metric, no real understanding of what that will be. And I'll be honest, I'd be surprised if we ever find out exactly what he's doing, other than through sort of cryptic hints and suggestions in newspaper articles over the next 2 years. I don't think United will necessarily come out and detail exactly what he'll be doing, especially when you consider John Murtagh, who's just been brought in as football director, and Darren Fletcher, who's been brought in as technical director. How undermining is it to their jobs and their roles to bring in someone else to be essentially doing what we want him to be doing, which is the job they're doing? Can we really imagine that happening? I'm not so sure I can. I'm sure obviously he'll be giving his opinion on those types of matters, but the fact that we have two people doing that job already suggests to me that Ralf Rangnick will not be doing the full-time version of that job. But who knows? Sofa United fan says, my favourite thing about Mr. Ralf is that his name sounds like my favourite Thor movie, Thor Ragnarok. I assume you mean there. Ragnarok. You're not a million miles away, I'll give you that. Unbelievable coach, says Sergio. Mutt Maro says, bum Jesus, be excited, man. We got the man. I'm excited. I'm very excited. Fred is better than McSauce, apparently. Love this appointment and can only see the squad and abilities/qualities letting him down. Here's the thing. Regardless of how effective and how much this leads to trophies or not, we are about to see some undeniably tactically focused football. Something that we've, been crying out for under Solskjaer. Something that's been his biggest criticism is that there aren't obvious, fundamental Stephen House and whizzes across tactics to speak of. You are definitely getting that out of Ralf Rangnick, aren't you, Steve? How are you feeling, mate?
Jawohl.
What's that mean then in German?
Fuck knows. Means let's get fucking twisted. Oh, mate, I'm so happy.
Oh, yeah?
Nearly had a wank in a lift.
Did you? If it wasn't such a fast-moving lift, you'd probably been able to.
Yeah. It's older, innit, though, so you do get a bit more of a minute, and there's a bit more warning because you've got to open both doors.
That's
so,
true. There's a little window, though. That's the problem.
I could easily finish in that time as well.
Do you think?
Yeah.
You'd have to be in your trousers. Oh, yeah.
I'm so happy.
Go on, then. Talk to the people at home about Ralf Rangnick.
So I did a seminar with Ralf Rangnick last year, Joe, as I was kind of trying to fucking figure out... Do you know that mad idea I had to start?
You did a seminar with him?
Yeah.
What?
He did a coach's voice seminar.
Were you there?
It was a COVID one, so I was there on Zoom like this.
Oh, nice. Go on then, carry on.
It was sensational. It was I'm sure it was about 2 hours long. It was fucking mint.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is fucking Das Football Gott.
Mm.
It's hard to put into words almost like 2 hours worth of what he was talking about, but he gets anointed as like the godfather of Gegenpressing.
Yeah.
But realistically, it came from, he had a friendly match in 1984 against Dynamo Kiev and got rascalated essentially, and just was like, what is going on? And then he would kind of just go off and sneak and watch Dynamo Kiev. Yeah, with a notepad going like, what the fuck are these lot doing?
Just mentioned that before that game. He basically nicked it and then took it to the sort of European market. And obviously Kiev is in Europe, but the top 5 league
Not
market.
when it was part of the Soviet Union in 1984.
That's
it wasn't.
the point. There you go. You're welcome.
So he kind of brought it to Germany. He's seen as a massive inspiration for Hasenhüttl, for Klopp, for Tuchel, Nagelsmann, of course, as well. I think what's like people, if you look at his win percentage, you ain't going to be impressed. It's like 48% across all his jobs.
Yeah, 47.78. Let's round it up to 48.
It's not great. Mm-hmm. But that's what you have to consider. Like if you go and manage PSG, you're coming away with at least 55%, aren't you? Yeah, at least.
Yeah. Even if I go in there, I'm terrible, which I would be, and get sacked, I'm still not losing more games than I win.
No, you just eke it out over 50%, I think. Right. Yeah. He took Hoffenheim from the 3rd division, regional league. He took Leipzig from a similar sort of place, even though it was a hell of a lot more director of football kind of stuff that he was doing, as well as some coaching type stuff that he did with Leipzig. Mm-hmm. So his stats are going to be way skewed. Mm-hmm. On the back end of having that journey up through the leagues with both of those teams. He also, I think up until Stuttgart, is it? Actually, it's fairly indifferent all the way through, but Stuttgart was his first sort of major kind of setback. He was sacked at Stuttgart. I think that's the one that he saw as the real big disappointment, I think, in his career. He's kind of not really taken on any massive jobs. I think the work that he did with Leipzig, or at least with Red Bull Football as a group, some of the players that they uncovered from Upamecano, Kimmich, I think Mane was he at Salzburg, was he? I think something like that. Haaland. Yeah. Like what they're doing in terms of
just gone to Bayern this season.
Sort of developing players and bringing them through. I mean, I was trying to look at the dates he was there. I'm almost certain he was manager at Leipzig when we went. I'm just going to see when it was that I went to Leipzig when me and Statman Daddy went. I'm just going to Google it 2 seconds.
Yes, okay. Get your comments in, your thoughts on Ralf Rangnick. Obviously, Steers here as well now, so we'll be going through them together. Abhishek says, a lot of fuss about Ronaldo and pressing, but I've seen the 36-year-old press more in games versus Villarreal and Atalanta than Martial has ever. Well, yeah, but that's not necessarily a comparison to be made, is it? I love Rangnick's line about pressing from the coach's voice talk, saying you can't press a little bit. That's like being a little bit pregnant. You either press or you don't. Great coach. You can be a little bit pregnant, can't you? With that first night, when it's just sort of latching on.
There's so many things I want to say.
Only a little bit pregnant.
Oh, my God.
4,000 votes 93% happy with the choice as interim manager. I ain't seen this sort of unity in the fan base since we won the treble.
Does this mean it's a bad decision?
It means it's a bad decision. We all like him, therefore it's not going to work.
Yeah, it was like Steve's obsession with getting Sal Niguez in.
Yeah.
I knew he was shit, but I wanted him. Just allow
Shut
it.
up. Whatever it was, anyway, does it matter to the point of this, Steve?
Yeah, because I want to get the 11 and the result of it as well.
Okay. John B says, now we can find out what Rio had for his dinner. I don't know what that reference is. Steve's mic is very quiet. Has that been fixed? It's been fixed
for
a while. Scripps says, can we remember Ed is leaving soon too? Apparently. I think he's going to stay on in the same consultancy role that Rangnick is doing, to be honest. What do you think to the consultancy role stuff?
With Rangnick, I'm delighted that he put it in.
Yeah.
Because him coming in for 6 months, he could have easily been, I've got this great idea about how we need to set training up. Cool, fuck off.
Yeah.
I've got this great idea about what you should do for like your recruitment analysis. Cool, no one cares, nerd, sling it. Whereas if he's going to be around as a consultant for a couple of years beyond his thing here, I think that means he gets listened to and respected a little bit more.
Do you know
Fletcher Merck could learn a lot of him.
Well,
here was the game. I don't think it was him in charge actually. So have a look for us. So January 17. I think that was outside of his remit, wasn't it? So he'd have been director of football at the time.
Yeah, he wasn't as a manager
Cool.
then.
Yeah, so I don't know who the manager was at the time then. But essentially they were still playing his system though. So they were playing a 4-2-2. Comper in defence, Sabitzer, Naby Keita, Timo Werner, Yusuf Poulsen.
I forgot about him.
Yeah.
And they won. They battered him.
3-0.
Yeah. This role as a consultant, my concern about that is we've got no information or suggestion of what that will be.
So what we're going to do is make it up.
And just hope that it's him being involved in the stuff that we'd
Well,
like.
I imagine it's not probably going to be about what hot dogs to have.
No, but what I'm saying is there's no necessarily imperative for the board or anyone to listen to him. He's not employed by the club.
I think more so. I think more so the fact that he's added to be a consultant following his managerial appointment. I think adds a lot of weight to what he would do, rather than just appoint him as interim and then pack him off afterwards. I think him seemingly requesting this as part of what he wants on top.
Yeah.
Tells me that, for starters, United appointing him, right? The amount of people that I just did a live upstairs and me and Ronaldo was down here literally an hour ago just talking about who could be the manager before this broke. The amount of people are going, I don't know anything about Ralf Rangnick. Well, do you think Ed Woodward knows about Ralf Rangnick? Not a fucking clue, does he? So I think the fact that we've appointed someone who has got a real football intellectualism about him and a real pedigree and respect of numerous people across the world with, admittedly, an ordinary win rate. I think that's unbelievably good.
Yeah, and I think it does. I was saying before, it's almost like we've got the right result potentially, even if our working isn't there. Because you can't imagine that Woodward and all those lot did this because they've liked him for a long time. They've followed him since the 90s. They understand it. But maybe they've seen a bit about him. They've seen a bit of social media. They've heard rumours and they've detailed and looked at him and couldn't get the one we wanted and he may be the second choice. But that doesn't mean he's not the right man.
No, I heard on Sunday United were trying for him.
Yeah.
But and at the time, I think I mentioned this to my Patreon group. I said, I think the difficulty at the time is freeing him from Lokomotiv Moscow. I think I said, unless it's Putin's, I think he can probably sort. If it's Putin's, then I guess we're looking elsewhere because if Putin don't want him to leave, he ain't leaving.
No.
So I'd heard something on Sunday that he was someone that we were looking at, and I thought it was weird because he was literally the only name. It seemed like there was no, Steve Bruce aside, there was no other name in the mixer for the interim. Loads of names for the future job, and I liked Jay's tweet last night, which is we've got more of a shortlist for replacing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer than we ever did for when replaced Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah.
Hilariously true. Tragically true.
So, very excited. You're happy. Seems as though the audience is happy. He's someone who I don't know the most about of all the options, but from what I do know of him, the research I've done in the last couple of weeks and what you hear over the years, he sounds like you said, a very sort of football-first appointment. Let's have a look at some of the potential downsides. He's never had the pressure of managing a club anything like the stature of Manchester United.
No, but he has managed Stuttgart.
No, but how much does that worry you? Because he's never even managed a big club in Germany, let alone a sort of a Goliath of football like Man United is.
I don't think it matters. Right. I think because he's there only as a short-term fix, I think there's a freedom to that.
Yeah.
A little bit like when Ollie first came in. Now, Mike Phelan, I don't know if he told us this on air or off air, we had him in on 5 in the summer. And I said, talk me through how that came about, how you got the job with Ollie. And he said he'd been doing a coaching session at a college or something in Burnley. And he said, and I'd get back in my car afterwards. He said, and there was loads of texts. There's loads of speculation. Obviously, he's still very connected with people at the club and stuff like that. And he said he had loads and loads of texts. Jose's gone, this, that, and the other. And by the sounds of it, they give Jose the bullet and immediately was in touch with Solskjaer. It wasn't like any kind of delay whatsoever. Or maybe they were even talking the previous night. Yeah. But he said, as I sat in my car, just sort of loads of text messages off family and friends and people like that. And he goes, Ollie's name stuck out to me, like, Ollie, not heard off Ollie for a bit. Clicks on Ollie, and it's like, I've just been offered the United job, 6 months or whatever it is, literally the same as this. And his message was, should we go and have some fun? Or do you want to come have some fun? And he was like, yeah, I do. And I think that's the mentality you can go into it, knowing it's interim.
Yeah.
I've got all I haven't got to think of a 5-year plan here. I haven't got to maybe think about what the machinations of the summer contracts are. Go in and just make them fucking feel good and play well.
I wonder if, whilst on its surface that can have a sort of a liberating freedom to it, could it also have a little bit of a supply teacher piss about to it?
Yeah.
Because, like...
Well, you said from the manager side.
One of the most intense methodologies in football, one of the most physically demanding methodologies in football, when he's going to be gone in 6 months anyway, we might have to learn something else. I don't want to be knackered halfway through a season.
That's all on how it's framed and delivered to the players then.
Because so that's up to him as a manager.
Yeah, if it's... Right, yeah, you know me for Gegenpressing. And I mentioned this to Ronaldo before about whether going to one of the sources, one of the original proponents of it, if he can give you an extra depth of understanding that someone that took it second hand from him hasn't quite developed, because he's obviously the guy with the deeper level of understanding. It's like learning off an expert rather than someone who's just got the level 1 in something, I guess. And I think there might be something in that. Like he makes them understand it on a deeper level than someone that's peripherally.
Yeah, because he came up with it or adapted it and has done it, whereas maybe someone else, a more modern manager, might. It's like the equivalent of he learned it on YouTube, whereas this guy's been doing it as his job for 10 years.
For 30.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think there's potential for the supply teacher sort of thingy, but if he comes into it and he's like, listen, they've brought me in because the next guy is going to be pressing with you.
Yeah. So like you can't shirk out of this. You're going to be doing it then anyway.
Yeah.
You might as well start now.
So
when the
you get used to
manager
it,
comes
or
in,
you
you're
pack
not
your
getting
shit.
sacked.
Yeah.
In 2009, Rangnick was quoted as saying, since Sir Alex left, they were underperforming. They haven't won the title since he left. We can still say that now. At any club, if you cannot get the right players, you can at least not sign the wrong ones. That's very funny. Just a tweet about Luke Shaw. I
want to scream it in a German accent, but I think I'll get done.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't do that. Great news. Welcome to Manchester. The consultancy role, obviously we need to find more information on that. At the minute, it could be anything from, what do you think to this player? Oh, you like him? If he said he likes him, but we're not getting him anyway. Or it could be
revamp everything.
He's in every day. You can be a 5 days a week.
But the guy took Leipzig from a provincial team to a Champions League.
So did a lot of Red Bull money.
Okay.
We can't act as though they weren't the sort of Man City of Germany.
Yeah, that's cool. But Salzburg also were. They're not necessarily doing the same sort of numbers.
No, I know, but it is a achievement with caveats, to say the least. Akshay says, live, thousands of miles away in India, but love that and will share with our club, ubiquitous, irrespective of race. That's the responsibility that these clubs carry. I agree with that. Very good stuff. The battle of the Gegenpress can commence, Steve. Tuchel, Klopp,
Premier League's
Rangnick.
about to go up a gear, isn't it?
The Premier League is about to get intense, if it wasn't already. Delapo says, will Rangnick help decide who the next manager will be? Don't know. I would guess probably not, but maybe he will. My only concern with that is he had to ask for that consultancy role. United presumably either didn't want to give it to him or weren't so keen on giving it to him. We don't know that.
They might have come to him and said, listen, we actually think we could learn a lot from you. I mean,
apparently he did have to ask for it.
All right, okay,
there was an initial conversation where he wasn't keen, and they came back and offered him that consultancy role.
Super.
So maybe who knows who will be fighting.
Well, the fact
there.
that United saw fucking sense is better than what we've seen recently.
Exactly. Like I said, we got the right result, seemingly, even if the
Show you
working out
working.
wasn't perfect.
I don't wanna.
I don't think they will do. And I don't think if you saw it, you'd be particularly happy with it. That's going to be all from us. Thank you for joining us. Manchester United have confirmed, well, it has been confirmed that Manchester United have agreed a deal with Ralf Rangnick to become the next interim manager of Manchester United until the end of the season, with a further 2-year consultancy role. Gegenpress is coming to Manchester. If you always thought Gegenpress was one of those two hipster football words, we've got to get used to it because it's going to be said a hell of a lot over the next 6 months. Thank you for joining us at home. We'll see you in a bit.